What's up, Wolverine Nation? Welcome to Week 4 of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camejo.
I'm Matthew Barturin.
And I'm Victor Torres.
And this week we're joined by a very special guest, Michael Suarez-Sarmiento. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you. I love this show, so it's just, I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So now that we're a few weeks into the series, we're going to start giving the crowns again. And like last week, how Victor won, this week, Matt won with his best overall performance last week. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, Jake.
Clap it up for him. Clap it up, Matt.
Outstanding performance. Guys, thoughts on Week 3? I know you guys want to talk.
I think we can't leave here without talking about Miami versus Buffalo. Miami put on a good show against, although it was an injured Buffalo team, we beat the best offense in the NFL, so the Dolphins are looking good right now.
Yeah, agreed. As a Dolphins fan, I couldn't be happier with how we played this weekend. We're 3-0, which is something I haven't been able to say for many years, but it's looking up. So.
Yeah, it feels great, and hopefully Tua's okay for Thursday night against the Bengals.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's going to do great. Week 3 was not as well with the Saints lost to the Panthers.
Yeah.
The way they've been playing, I think it's going to be a rough year. But let's talk about fantasy football right now.
Yep.
Mike, what's your pickup of the week?
All right, so to me, he's a pretty underrated guy. He's not really heard of. His name is Greg Dortch on the Cardinals. He's only 7% rostered, and over the last 3 weeks, he's averaged 15 points per game. And so week 1, he had 9 targets, and then last week, he had 10 targets. And he's been their number 2 guy there in Arizona. So, he's just, a guy to look out for, pick up for your team, and, he'll do good.
Yeah, especially since there's no receiver 1 on that offense until DeAndre Hopkins comes back.
Yeah.
AJ Green just got hurt, too, so now Dortch's production's going to go up, too.
Yeah. My pickup of the week is Jamal Williams, the backup running back on the Lions. Now, everyone knows him from that clip on Hard Knocks and the last year on the interview from the Packers, but he's a great running back. He's gotten a lot of carries this year, taken away from DeAndre Swift, and especially goal line touches. Last week, he had 2 touchdowns with 87 yards rushing and 2 receptions for 20 yards receiving. I think he's a solid bench and flex option in the upcoming weeks, especially if he keeps getting those goal line touches.
Yeah, those goal line touches are huge.
Yeah.
Give you a lot of points.
Touchdown, 6 points, man. That's basically like James Conner the whole season last year.
Yeah.
Vic?
My pickup is Isaiah McKenzie, the Bills wide receiver. Although the Dolphins did win, as we had mentioned, the Bills kind of dominated on offense, to an extent. Passing the ball, they pretty much killed us. And Isaiah McKenzie was a huge part of that. He had 9 targets for 7 catches, 76 yards, and a very early touchdown. And I think he's kind of like their gadget guy. They're going to start finding a way to get him the ball more because he's a speedster, and one missed tackle, he could break for a touchdown. So I think they're going to start trying to use him more in the offense. It's a great offense, and I think any week of the year, any of those receivers could burst out, whether it's Diggs, Gabe Davis, or McKenzie. So I'd say pick up McKenzie and just sit him on your bench, and every once in a while start him against maybe a dicey defense.
Yeah, I agree. The guy's in the slot. He's been explosive all year, and he's been playing pretty well because I remember seeing him in the preseason, and I'm like, oh, let's see how he does week 1 against the Titans. And he did relatively well. He had a touchdown, and this week against the Dolphins, he blew up. So
I also forgot to mention that they do play Baltimore, which has been letting up a lot of yards to receivers. I mean, Devontae Parker, who has had an abysmal season so far, had 130 yards against the Ravens. Mm-hmm. So I think McKenzie's due for a good game this week.
Definitely against that weak Baltimore defense. Matt, what's your pickup?
My pickup is Tyler Conklin, the tight end from the Jets. He's only rostered in 11% of leagues. And he's also the number 3 fantasy tight end through the first 3 weeks. He's had 10 points, 11 points, and 16 points
Consistency.
the last 3 weeks. Very consistent, and with a backup quarterback over there in New York.
Hey, but let's not discredit Joe Flacco.
No.
That's a veteran. That's a veteran. That's a veteran right there.
No. But that is not their starting quarterback. So they got to go with that. And then last week he caught 8 of 8 targets. So he's getting the volume and he's getting the catches against Cincinnati. The starting QB Zach Wilson should return this week. So hopefully it'll affect his production in a positive way.
Yeah, Tyler Conklin's been playing pretty well this year, and until we don't know when Zach Wilson's coming back, especially when he had that knee injury early in the preseason, I think his production is still going to stay consistent because 10 points in each week he's had more than 10 points, which is for a tight end option in fantasy, you can't expect anything better for him.
Yeah, reports say that Zach Wilson has a chance to come back this week. So for week 4, so hopefully he does, and if he doesn't, I think Conklin will still have a great game.
Yeah,
So.
even Joe Flacco's still a reliable
still.
option back there at quarterback, the old
Yes.
man with legs. So after the pickups, we always go with the starts. Mike, who's your start of the week?
All right, so my start of the week is Damian Pierce. So last week against, the Bears, he had 20 points, like 80 yards and a touchdown and a couple catches, right? And this week they play the Chargers, who they don't really have the best run defense. They don't really have that middle linebacker, no, they don't really have a good player there. So
Yeah,
literally the last 3 weeks they've allowed over 5.5 yards per carry against the starters. So it just looks like he'll go off.
Yeah, especially talking about the middle linebacker spot. Kenneth Murray is not
Not living up to that hype of a first-round
Yeah.
pick that he was.
I mean, he's doing well in the pass coverage area. He's a great pass cover, but I don't think he's been doing well in filling those gaps and hitting hard and stopping that run.
That Chargers defense looked abysmal against the Jaguars. And, of course, my sit, ETN, did nothing. But James Robinson ran all over them.
Yeah, and the hype that was going to this year with the Chargers defense was through the roof with J.C. Jackson, Sebastian Justice-Day, and Derwin James coming back. It's crazy to see how bad they've been playing overall as a unit.
Yeah, and Damian Pierce is a solid back. They rely on him a lot, so should be due for a big week.
Yeah, he had a great college career at Florida, and even though it was a bad defense in Chicago, which is still good, we still got a few guys in Roquan Smith and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he still played overall pretty well. So I think it's a good RB2 start for the week.
Yeah.
My start of the week is more of a flex option or a receiver too. Alan Lazard, Lizard King. So after missing week 1, Lazard played 111 snaps in the past 2 weeks. That's 85% of the offensive snaps for Green Bay. He also doubled his targets from week 2 to week 3. And earlier we were talking about the Patriots defense, how they let a very bad receiver group go off against them. I think the Patriots defense is going to key on Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and they're going to try to stop the run because right now that Packers offense is running through those 2 guys in the backfield. So I think they're going to focus on keying on those 2 guys, and then Aaron Rodgers does what Aaron Rodgers does and opens up the pass game more and gets it to his guys.
Yeah, there's been concerns, of course, about the Packers receiver room. They lost Devontae Adams, a huge loss. So Alan Lazard has to step up and be that wide receiver 1, and I think they'll lean on him.
Yeah, especially with Christian Watson and Sammy Watkins both on injury.
Yeah,
I know Sammy Watkins is on IR, but Christian Watkins is on a thing on a week-to-week basis so far.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good start. Last week he had a touchdown, and it was Romeo Dobbs. But week 2 he had a touchdown, and I think consistency is going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Matt?
My start of the week is Alexander Madison. So always a reliable guy when Dalvin Cook's out, and Dalvin Cook, elaborating on that, he hurt his shoulder this week, so he's kind of like questionable for next week. So if he does remain out, Alexander Madison is always consistent when Dalvin Cook is out. They lean on him a lot. Expect 15, 20, maybe even 25 carries from him, and he's always a reliable fantasy producer.
He's like a plug-and-play kind of guy with that Vikings
he is.
team. And he plays a Saints defense who in London, who they have not been able to stop a piece of paper from doing anything. It's blowing my mind because last year we went from one of the best defenses to now looking like a JV team. Not JV team, we're still an NFL team, but it's been bad in down there in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. But I think Alexander Madison's every year we always hear his name later in the season, so it's kind of early to hear his name with Dalvin Cook going down. But every year Dalvin Cook goes down with an injury for 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and Alexander Madison gives up 15 plus points every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Vic, who's your start of the week?
Jake, you're going to like this one. I'm starting Chris Olave this week.
Oh, baby.
He's coming off back-to-back 13 target weeks, and this time he succeeded a lot more. He got 9 of those 13 targets for over 140 yards. And Jameis Winston has kind of found his guy now. He's starting to trust his rookie, and with an injury to Michael Thomas, I think he's going to start, he's going to get more production, which 13 catches, 9 yards, 140 yards, you can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, he played great last
sketchy
last
Vikings
week.
defense, I think he's due for a huge game in London, as we mentioned. We were talking about this game a lot. Mm-hmm. But the Vikings have been letting good receivers run all over them, and I think Olave is due for a really good week.
Yeah, Olave, coming into the offseason, I was wanting a receiver for the Saints because they had no receivers last year, and we got him at 11, and he's been playing pretty well. He didn't play that well against Atlanta, didn't get that many targets, but week 2 against the Bucs, he got a lot of deep targets, and even though he didn't get all of them because Jameis kind of missed him on some of them, even though I think Jameis' inconsistent QB play is a factor in this, I still think he's going to get open from the slot and those deep routes he gets like 50, 60-yard bombs.
You can't expect the rookie to go out there and automatically do great, but he's kind of doing it. He's kind of changing that opinion.
Yeah, he'll just keep improving as the season
back-to-back
goes
weeks where I
along.
start a rookie.
Yeah.
Rookie
Hey.
wide receiver too.
If it works, it works.
It works.
Yeah.
So now we've been talking about the blow-up guy and the guys who start. Let's talk about the sitters of the week, the trash guys. Mike, who's your sit?
All right, so my sit is Cordell Patterson. So, he hasn't been he had a good week 1 and a good week 3. But week 2 against the Rams, he had only 4 points. And, the Browns, they have a really good run defense. They were able to, keep Christian McCaffrey and Najee Harris both under 4 yards a carry, which that's not even that much. And, Cordell Patterson isn't even on the level as those guys. So I feel like, he won't have, any running game at all against the Browns. So, yeah.
Yeah, outside that week 1 performance against the Saints where he went off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He went off against the Saints defense.
did.
I think he slowed down these past 2 weeks. And even though he has that receiving threat, because he's also a very good receiver and running back, I don't think he does that well this week.
One of those guys who week to week could be very consistent or inconsistent.
Yeah, it depends on how much they rely on him or not. It depends on how the game's going, who you're facing. So
Yeah, that Falcons offense is
Ideally, you think they're playing from behind, because he's pretty much another receiver in the backfield. For
Yeah,
them,
basically.
But the Falcons offense has been impossible to not cover, but to watch and see what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very changing.
So my sit of the week is former first round pick for the Las Vegas Raiders right now, Josh Jacobs. He plays a hard Denver defense who's only been allowing 9.1 fantasy points per game. And as we saw in the game on Monday night against the 49ers, these past few games for the Broncos have been very low scoring for what we would think these games would be. Yeah. So I think the Raiders are a very pass-heavy team. They're in the red zone alone. They're 29-11 in plays and passing, 29 passing plays to 11 runs, and he's yet to find the end zone on 2 goal line carries he's had this year from inside the 5. And plus, also remember early in the year, Josh McDaniels came in and he didn't sign that 5th-year option, so he is not really reliable on that team yet. So I don't know. I'm not really sure if you have him. I mean, if you have no other running backs, if you're one of those guys who did the 0 running back draft strategy, like one of those buffoons who did that, I think you have to start him, but I think it's a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Broncos country.
That's right. So Matt, what's your sit?
My sit is Darrell Henderson.
Oh, that's
he
quite
was
ironic.
He was my start a couple weeks ago. Things were looking up for him, and he did do all right. But I think the run is over. Cam Akers is getting some more carries now. They're splitting pretty heavily.
Scored his first touchdown this past week.
There you go. And he had 1.7 points last week. So
wow.
Thank God I benched him. Thank God.
Thank God.
And he faces a statistically tougher defense to the run in the 49ers. They're the ninth best run defense in the league right now in terms of fantasy points. So with the limited carries and with the tough defense, I'd say definitely sit Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, that 49ers defense has been playing pretty well against every passing options and running options.
And even without the defense, just in a regular game against a poor defense, I'd say Darrell Henderson still will get
less volume.
Carries,
yeah, every single year we see this Rams running back room, and it's the same thing every year. Running back by committee. One guy takes leadership in the middle of the year, gets more carries, and then all of a sudden they flip, and then they get a guy in practice squad. It's crazy.
They kind of like to just go with the hot hand.
Yeah, Sean McVay's a smart guy, so
missing Todd Gurley right now.
That 2017 Todd Gurley was something else. So
it.
Vic, who's your sit this week?
My sit is another former first-round running back, actually, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, this one might throw you off a little because he's ranked 3rd for all of running backs, but it's pretty misleading. If he's not scoring a touchdown, he's not getting any points for your fantasy league. Last week against the Colts, which an embarrassing loss for the Chiefs, if you ask me, 7 carries for 0 yards. He got a touchdown, which the math ain't math in there, but
it's not.
And they play a Buccaneers defense, which just shut down 2 of the best running backs in the league. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon both combined for maybe 80 yards, but collectively they had 40 each, and they just weren't running the ball that well. And I think the Chiefs, who have a lot worse of a run scheme and everything, are not going to do that well. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not, unless he gets a lot of work in the receiving game, he's not due for a good game. So I think that I think the Chiefs and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are not going to be able to run the ball this week.
Yeah, he's also been splitting carries too, which is
for sure.
which is a big deal.
They run running back by committee. It's kind of just
Jared
feed the hot
McCain.
hand in the middle of the game is what they do. So.
Yeah, that running game right now in Kansas City is not very consistent right now, and I think they're just gonna lead on Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the guys outside to.
It's a safe option if you ask me.
Yeah.
Pretty safe.
I would say.
So guys, before we go in the show, any thoughts going into Week 4?
Should be exciting.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully the Saints win in London this
We
week.
get to see the white Bengal on Thursday night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited for
Prime
that. That's a crazy uniform that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And hopefully I get my first win in fantasy this year. I've been kind of struggling this year. Hopefully I don't get that punishment at the end of the year. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Well, Wolverine Nation, that's it for this week's episode of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camejo,
I'm Matthew Barturin.
I'm Victor Torres.
And I'm Michael Suarez Sarmiento.
and thanks for watching.